Good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. Looks like we have a solid quorum with which to run this meeting of the African American Task Force's Infrastructure and Environment Subcommittee. Thank you for being here with me today. Senator Pinckney will join us a little bit later on, but because we have our good quorum, should not inhibit us from being able to do any of our agenda, which is great news. Again, we'll just keep moving along. I believe our first order of business is to confirm who we do have here, make sure that we do have that quorum. So Caitlin, would you mind just going through our attendee list real quick?
Absolutely. Senator Lockman.
I am here.
Senator Pinckney. Harold Stafford. Willie Scott.
Here.
Dan Young. Dana Cobb.
Here.
Marlena Gibson. Marlene Saunders. Dr. Saunders?
Present. I was on mute, sorry.
No problem, thank you. Abby Samuels.
Here.
Simone Philpotts.
Here.
Wendy Henry.
Here.
Representative Lambert.
Here.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Wonderful. And it looks like Ms. Philpotts brought an extra vote, so let's just be careful not to count him. But we're always happy to see him. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Let's start with the adoption of minutes from last meeting. I believe those were distributed, correct, Caitlin?
Yes.
So hopefully everyone got a chance to look at those quickly. Any errors, comments, questions on those? And if we don't have any comments or questions or corrections, I will just be looking for a motion and a second so that we can go ahead and accept those.
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dana. All right, all in favor? Just want to show your, Caitlin, do we need to do a whole roll call on that?
Yeah, that's, I think, the
Okay. All right, let's do
preferred
a roll
method,
call.
but we can run through it quickly. So, Senator Lockman.
Yes.
Willie Scott.
Yes.
Dana Cobb.
Yes.
Marlene Saunders.
Yes.
Abby Samuels.
Yes.
Simone Philpotts.
Yes.
Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Representative Lambert.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have all members voting yes, so the minutes are approved.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin and everyone. Okay, so right into our business today, we'll be continuing our conversation about our environmental related recommendations. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to be elevating to the full body of the consortium, the task force next Monday. So I believe we have a handful of remaining recommendations that Dana Cobb brought us. And Caitlin, you want to just sort of catch us up to where we stopped so that we can resume that conversation?
Yes, so it looks like the last one that we voted on was number 5, calling for a study of penalties and fines for violations. So we discussed recommendations 6 through 10 at our last meeting, but we didn't have a quorum to vote on any of them.
Okay.
And here in red, you just see some notes that I took that came out of the discussion of these recommendations. And these were submitted by Dana.
Okay, great. That's right. So at our last meeting, we did not have the quorum to, after about the midpoint, to affirm some of these. So Dana, if you don't mind sort of helping refresh us, because I know a couple of people weren't here who may want to weigh in now, but maybe we'll just take them one at a time, see if there's any further questions or comments, and then we'll go ahead and vote to affirm.
Sure. The first one, I will say that these have morphed since we gave the initial recommendation. So DENREC, the first one is DENREC should continue with the environmental justice mapping tool to incorporate in decisions and processes. We are currently working on this in conjunction with the Justice 40 initiative. We got great feedback from that meeting, which was the feedback I received, and Representative Lambert could correct me if I'm wrong, was that people are comfortable with what My Healthy Communities looks like. And so we are looking at having the same feel, if not adding a data layer into My Healthy Communities. We're in talks about that now. We may be doing a pivot. Those are further conversations, but these type of interactions are what we need so that we can have these pivots and not make sure that we're using the best resources. So that was the first one, the environmental justice mapping tool. So we know we're all talking about the same communities, understanding that that may look different depending on what the criteria is, whether it be environmental factors, transportation, and the like, but making sure that we have some type of ground truth.
Oh, I see Representative Lambert's raised his hand.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you, Ms. Cobb, for your input and for your efforts thus far. As you mentioned, these are still introductory conversations, but your efforts and you listening to the community's feedback has been very helpful thus far.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's great news. It sounds like great progress. Does that mean potentially, if it ends up being part of Healthy Communities, that I guess that we'll be able to see some of this environmental justice mapping integrated with other data points?
So right now, My Healthy Communities has some climate factors, some environmental factors. And so we need to talk with our partners there to see what that could look like and if they can actually house it, because ours will have a lot of information, right? So we'll be looking at water, we're looking at air. It's a lot of data points. And so we need to go back and see if it can be done and what that may look like. And if not, how can we make it seamless so that you don't have to go to 100 different points to get information? Those are the conversations that we're having. I should say they're having. I'm not having them directly, but that the department is having.
That's very cool.
And Senator Lockman, I wanted to also add that My Healthy Communities, which is currently housed under the Department of Health, it does currently have some data around childhood lead poisoning, data around drinking water, things of that sort.
Yeah, that's great. No, that makes a lot of sense. I see, Willie, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, Dana, I think EPA is also looking to increase or upgrade, I should say, the DJ screen tool that they currently use. And so there may be some, synergy between that effort and this one as well.
That is great feedback. That's where our starting point is, EJ screen. And we saw some deficiencies. And so that I will give the team that feedback. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Dr. Saunders, I saw your hand. Did you want to comment?
Well, I'm just trying to wonder if I should hold my question until we go through all of the recommendations, but it was mentioned that what we're talking about now includes discussions with Justice 40. So my question is, do we yet need to decide which recommendations we are going to submit to the Justice 40 Oversight Committee for inclusion in their report, which is due at the end of this year in December?
So I think we spoke at the last meeting or so about we have some significant overlap, I think, with our goals, and so we're trying to make sure that we're not being duplicative.
Right.
Representative Lambert and Senator Pinckney obviously are both part of this group and that group. So I don't know, Representative Lambert, if you wanted to speak about how you plan to approach just kind of making sure that we're working in tandem and not, not with blind spots for each other's work.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Saunders. So the Justice 40 Oversight Committee, we consider it to be complementary to the wonderful work that this committee does. And to be more specific, the Justice 40 Oversight Committee is more focused. We have a pinpoint focus on ensuring that the Build Back Better funds particularly funds dedicated to climate change, pollution remediation, green energy, that those investment benefits go to, that at least 40% of those investment benefits go to overburdened communities. That's in alignment with President Biden's executive order on climate change. So that's what we're really focused on. And when it comes to the mapping tool, it'll really help us to be able to map and track the implementation of those investment benefits to make sure we're in alignment with the president's executive order.
Excellent, thank you. Dr. Saunders, does that answer your question?
I think so. So then it's logical to think that the recommendation regarding the mapping tool would be something we would submit to the Justice 40 to be a part of the recommendations that are contained in their final report.
Yes, I believe it's already part of their work plan.
Okay.
It's already part of their work plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Great. And to your point, I think, yeah, let's go ahead and talk through each of these and then we'll just come back and
Right.
do a vote. So that way we'll make sure we're hitting all the points. So any other questions or thoughts on number 6 before we move on? Okay. Rep. Lambert, I see your hand, but I think you're good, right? Okay, cool. All right, Dina, number 7.
Sure, number 7. Number 7 is DENREC should improve public engagement in environmental justice communities based on results from its study and work with Delaware State University. I'm looking at the other screen, so I'm sorry. I'm looking at the big screen, so it looks like I'm not looking. I think that is a 2-year study with my beloved alma mater. We are supposed to be having the final report in the winter of 2023. That does not mean that we are not doing things already, but I believe that we want to make informed decisions and best practices. If we had everything together, we would not need this study. And so I just wanted to put it out there that this is an integral part of us moving forward.
Okay. Do we have any questions on number 7?
I did want to briefly add, Ms. Cobb, that the Justice 40 Oversight Committee, we're getting an intern from Dell State this spring. And if there's anything that she can do to support with this effort here, just let me know.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That is awesome. Excellent. All right, no other questions. Before I move on to number 8, I think I just wanted to clarify, I should have asked this when we were on number 6. Dana, you submitted these. Do you see any need to adjust language in either of these to reflect any of these developments, or do you think we're still good with the way that we've stated the recommendations?
I am okay with it.
Okay, great. Okay, I don't see any hands on 7. It's good and straightforward. So we can move on to number 8.
Number 8 is the recommendation that the department builds on training all employees in environmental justice philosophy and techniques. This would need to be with outside a consultant. And my thought process with this one is we did high level EJ training with managers about what is environmental justice, about redlining and such, but we need to go into the implementation. And so what does that look like for me in my specific position, right? So what does it look like as me as a planner? What does environmental justice philosophies and techniques look like when I'm doing the actual work or education and outreach? And so that is where we need to go from theory to application, and we would need specialized training. I have not had a chance to get a date because the scope of this, I realized once I said the thing, is so broad because we have a host of different positions. And so we're trying to narrow down the focus into groups, maybe technicians, administrators, and the like, and then getting some concrete dates. But definitely the thought behind this was to have direct training for DENREC employees. And I did DENREC specific. It doesn't need to be DENREC specific. I believe that this training could be beneficial outside, but I'll only talk for our agency. And so that was my thought process behind number 8.
Okay, Thank you for that. I know we had some hopes and some conversations about it being applicable beyond DENREC. I guess maybe I would invite the conversation about whether or not we should adjust the recommendation to reflect that possibility. Because that would be amazing, I think. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Or Dana, do you yourself have a thought on the recommendation reflecting the possibility of going beyond DENREC?
Well, and I only thought about that after we had the last meeting where you're always like, well, it could be outside. I don't think it absolutely could, because even in the subcommittee, environment is looking outside of just DENREC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I thought to make it, even though its focus is more broad, so we may do planners and environmental scientists or scientific background, and what that may look like, our education and outreach. And so we have to kind of kick the tires on that,
Okay.
so that it can be adaptable. I like that word. But that was my thought. I see Mr. Scott.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there may be applicability for the Division of Health as well. As we get into thinking about the health effects of pollution and in environmental justice communities, that this piece of work might also be beneficial to the division in making those assessments and thinking through their work and activity.
So I'm thinking perhaps we can add a little language at the end of that sentence, maybe sort of comma, and explore applicability to other agencies such as, and then open to, which department did you say DHSS?
Yes.
So maybe we can try that. So comma and explore applicability to other agencies such as DHSS. Yes, Ms. Henry. You volunteering, Delda?
I am. I'm sorry, my phone won't stop ringing. I keep declining and it keeps ringing. So yes, I think that Delda would also be interested in partnering and being part of this training as well. We, have quite a few planners, and we have our own environmental justice section as part of the environmental group. So I definitely think we'd like to be included in that training as well.
That's fantastic. And so, yes, and I think that language is definitely meant that those are outstanding starting points, but obviously we can go beyond that. So any objections to that language before we move on? Thanks, Wendy, for that. Great. It's exciting. And all right, Dina, number 9, we're almost there, everybody.
DENREC should create the department-wide position of Environmental Justice Coordinator, reporting directly to the Secretary, who can act as a liaison with EJ communities, ensure all divisions are properly incorporating EJ principles. My thought process, you already have the notes, Caitlin. Is that it's a huge department, and we serve almost 1 million Delawareans, and we just want to make sure that we have consistency across and that we have a point of contact.
Great.
Yes.
Is there any update on the request for that to be in the initial budget?
I know that it went from our department to OGov. That's
okay.
as much of it.
Okay, let's start. All right, cool. Any questions or thoughts on this recommendation? Yes, Dr. Saunders.
Well, I'm really pleased, to see this recommendation. But what is making my eyebrow go up is a coordinator. The thought that I and folks down here have been talking about is I think Representative Lambert in the Justice 40 Oversight Committee, has a structure in place for coordinators or liaisons, for each county. That would be, that's where my thinking is in terms of expanding that concept or that structure from a coordinator to coordinators for each county. That way there it ensures greater certainty that the unique needs and perspectives of counties are expressed and heard. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any thoughts on that, or Dana, did you want to speak to that at all potentially? I mean, I don't know if we want to mention maybe a long-term goal of getting there or something like that. Go ahead.
Right. So I completely understand and agree that each county and even cities within a county, thinking about Wilmington and Newcastle County and Hart, just have such different needs and needing a contact. I believe this was the first step in establishing this I won't say office, but this position and being able to expand. I don't want to extrapolate out, but we also have, we'll be working with ombudsmen and doing the like to have that availability and that point of contact. I believe this was the first step to actually get a position. Getting positions, I'm now learning 2 years into government, is a lot. And so I believe this is the first initial step, Dr. Saunders, but it definitely can be expanded, and we'll be looking to do that. I will take those notes from you back to the department.
Thank you, Dana. Willie, I'm going to give you the floor, and then we can talk about whether or not we need to adjust language to reflect that. Don't forget to unmute, Willie.
Sorry. Yeah, I think Dr. Saunders makes a great point in terms of getting a clear connection and input from, various communities across the state. And, as we tie this to the first, or number one, I should say, the first recommendation we had where we talked about an EJ board, I think the vision there would be that there would be representatives from, various EJ communities as part of that board. So at least in the initial stages, until we can build this out and, maybe have more than one coordinator, at least we would have people from each EJ community across the state tied into this board or committee, to provide that kind of oversight and input and tie-in. So I think, if we put those two together, the way we had talked about, we kind of get there, at least get started on getting there until we can, learn more and build more. But at least it gets us out of the gate anyhow.
Okay. Thank you for that. Wendy?
Thank you. And I just wanted to also, Dana, I totally agree with what you're saying. When you were trying to add new positions, it can be a challenge in state government. So as I was looking at this and thinking about your environmental justice coordinator, you may want to consider making that person an administrator. And that way you can ensure that you're starting off there. And then if you want to bring other individuals on for different counties, possibly bringing them in as coordinators or liaisons throughout the state, it might play out a little better. It'll be much more difficult to try to change it up later on. So you might want to start there initially, just a thought.
Oh, that was good. Thank you so much.
Great. Dr. Saunders, did you have further comments?
Yeah, just one other comment. And the thing that I would recommend is that this recommendation certainly expressed a value and attitude that underlie community engagement, so that we have a bottom-up kind of decision-making process rather than top-down. And I would add language that says that the coordinators are not only accountable, to the secretary, but to the communities they represent. Because we want to kind of shift the matrix, in terms of how decisions are made. And I think the Justice 40 oversight, this whole environmental justice initiative that's countrywide now is trying to get to that point. And, Justice 40 Oversight Committee has a structure in place now that does in fact come closer, to doing that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's good. I'm going to suggest some possible language and note, please do not hesitate to adjust this. But I was going to say, Caitlin, let's try after the word liaison where it says with, maybe we could say X liaison accountable to EJ communities, and then after communities, perhaps say as well as the department secretary if we feel we need to say that. And then but we could take out the second with EJ communities, but accountable to EJ communities as well as the department secretary. And then maybe that and ensure can be to ensure, something like that. And then Dina, it sounded like you were very receptive to Wendy's suggestion that this be an administrator as opposed to a coordinator to get started. Can we change that language in environmental justice? Did I get the word right? Administrator. Oh, I see. We already have reporting directly to the secretary. So maybe we can take out the as well as the department secretary that I added in there. Sorry. Love wordsmithing on the fly. But I would say, yeah, are we okay with adding administrator instead of coordinator? And then I guess I would open it up to the committee if we want to add sort of a little coda there, talking about the goal of expanding this further. And I guess I would invite language because I'm not sure how to state that smoothly. Act as a liaison accountable to EJ communities and ensure all divisions are properly incorporating EJ principles. Dana, you went off mute.
Yes, I'm sorry. I think I understand the thought process. I just struggle with the word accountable because I'm not sure what accountable looks like.
Okay.
And so I don't know a better word though, so I just gave that. And then I had nothing more to give.
No, I mean I think that's fair because I think it does. I guess it does hint at, well, as Dr. Sanji was saying, sort of a structure to guarantee that, which we haven't incorporated into this recommendation necessarily. But maybe that's not a bad thing to hint at. I don't know. Willie, your hand is still up. I don't know if you wanted to offer feedback or that was just a remnant.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyone have any proposals for a better word than accountable? I mean, it's at this point, not a formal accountability, but maybe I don't know.
I get it. I think it was just my analytical brain with metrics and such, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Act as liaison and ensure all divisions are incorporating properly. I'm trying to think how to fit in the possibility of expanding this. But maybe this is enough. Oh, okay, go. Yes, go, Caitlin, go. We're watching with bated breath. Maybe. This, or maybe even this would. Okay. All right, we'll mull on that one. Well, Caitlin, I'm going to let you think about that for a minute, and because we haven't voted yet anyway, so we can do this when we come back, and I don't want you to have to feel like everyone's just staring at you. So I'm going to have Dana go ahead and walk us through number 10, and then we'll circle back.
Okay. Also, just wanted to note, subcommittee member Marlena Gibson has joined us, so our quorum is even stronger.
Yay! We're doing good today. We're doing great. We're on fire, I'd say. All right, go ahead, Dana. I'm going to give you the floor for number 10.
Thank you. The last one was from feedback that we got actually from this subcommittee meeting about accessibility of data and information. And so it is that DENREC should make it easier for public to access current data and information that can be used by residents to access DENREC's work and data in their communities. And I believe that will tie into the dashboard that we are looking to get, but that was from direct feedback when we had the emergency notification system and how to get that information. We heard the subcommittee when it was said that I don't know how to get the information, and so we want to make sure that number one is accessible, and number two that it's easy to digest. Right. A lot of times people are in the roles and they've done the roles for 15, 20 years and they're talking a different language, not realizing that we're talking a different language. And so it's just us getting back to basics and making sure that the people that we serve actually understand all of the great work that we do, because sometimes we're so busy doing the work that we don't communicate it effectively. That was a long-winded response to my one sentence, number 10, but that was the thought process behind it.
Well, so, and my first question was going to be, how does this differ from number 6? And do we need a second one in this vein, or
I think number 10 can go because it's all in this, it'll evolve. After I said it, I realized it's just going to be the same thing.
Okay, and we can do a strike through there. Anyone have any questions or thoughts on striking through number 10 because it's accommodated in number 6 and how that's sort of developed? Okay. All right, seeing none. I will circle. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Number 6 was the one that referenced the mapping tool.
Correct.
I do want to add that one opportunity for improvement that I've heard from communities with DNREC is also when there are like town hall meetings or meetings of that sort, that communities would like to be able to go to the DNREC website and have clear communication of when the meetings are, how they can access, if it's Zoom or in person. So I did want to just add that there are other opportunities to improve communication outside of the mapping tool.
So do we want to literally combine those so that that language is not lost in terms of our recommendation making? Is my thought. I mean, I guess what I'm hearing, what I think I'm hearing is that maybe that because of that, that's so focused on the mapping that maybe it's a little narrow.
If we could add the two together.
I do want to add though that technically number 7 does kind of reference community engagement. So I think it would be covered between those two. Seeing them all on the screen together helps me to understand.
Yeah, okay. All right, so between 6 and 7, it's covered, and we can lose the language with the understanding that that's likely to be incorporated into what we see coming from the DSC report. Okay, that's really helpful, Representative. Thank you. Okay, great. And Caitlin, you want to scroll down to 9 real quick? And I saw your language, and it looked good to me. We've added language that says this role should be expanded in the future to include EJ coordinators for each county who would report to the EJ administrator. So pretty explicit about the hopes of where that recommendation goes in the future. Great. Okay. I think we will take these one at a time, just in case anyone has any particular, I think we're good, but just in case anyone has any particular need to not vote on something or take a different position. So that leaves us with what, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So going up, I would say we'll need a motion in a second. We'll take these votes one bit at a time. So who would like to get us started? Oh, hi, Senator Pinckney. We got here just in time to vote on recommendations. We've worked through them, and we've got 4 that are in good shape. So just gonna wait for a motion.
Are you asking for a motion? You said you'd like a motion one by one, correct?
Yes.
I would love to make a motion to vote on number 1.
6, we're on 6.
6, just kidding. Make sure everybody's awake. Number
Yeah, good test. I caught you. All right, looking for a second?
Second.
Great. All right, let's vote.
Okay, I am going to just go down the list of the folks who are present, beginning with Senator Lockman.
Yes.
Senator Pinckney.
Yes.
Dr. Saunders.
Hey.
Willie Scott.
Yes.
Abby Samuels,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Dana Cobb,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Marlena Gibson,
Yes.
Wendy Henry.
Yes.
I was wondering, I was like, what about Wendy?
Did I call everybody?
Anyone get left out? Okay, great.
Perfect. So we have 10 members voting yes.
Excellent. All right, let's do that again for number 7.
I move for a vote on number 7.
Thank you, Abby.
I'll
Great.
second.
All right,
I'm sorry, I missed who seconded.
Senator Bickney.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right. And I'll start again at the top. Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Dr. Saunders,
See,
Willie Scott,
Yes.
Abby Samuels,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Dana Cobb,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Marlena Gibson,
Yes.
and Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Okay, we have 10 members voting yes. On to number 8.
Wonderful.
Move to accept.
Second.
All right.
And was that Simone who seconded?
No, it was Senator Pinckney again.
Oh, Senator Pinckney. Okay, sorry.
Every time.
All right, okay. And we'll start again with Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Dr. Saunders,
yes,
Willie Scott,
Yes.
Abby Samuels,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Dana Cobb,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Marlena Gibson,
Yes.
and Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Okay, we have 10 members voting yes. On to number 9.
Okay, great. All right, who wants to take their turn on this one? Looking for a motion on number 9.
Motion to approve number 9.
Second.
Second.
Oh.
Okay,
I think Mr. Scott might have slightly edged out Abby, I think.
Okay, so Willie seconded.
I think so.
Okay.
Close.
All right. Okay, Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Dr. Saunders,
uh,
Oh my.
right, abstain,
Okay.
abstain. Willie Scott,
Yes.
Abby Samuels,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Dana Cobb,
Yes.
Representative Lambert,
Yes.
Marlena Gibson,
Yes.
and Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 9 members voting yes, 1 abstaining. And that concludes the voting.
can I say why?
Yes, please.
Well, I'm just kind of wanting that accountability spirit notion somehow in there. Is that assumed in this? Are we going to work on that? Or I mean, that's where I think that's what we are about. I mean, we really are about, having an honest, genuine community engagement philosophy in this, where there's transparency and opportunity for community to be involved in, what happens to them.
Yeah.
So that's, this says it, but yet it kind of doesn't all the way.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think we kept the word in there, but we didn't define it further. So I think your abstention is well taken, and with that sort of note that has to be further pursued.
Okay.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I think we could definitely spend hours further defining that, and maybe that's something that will be circled back to at some point. But I think it definitely, at least retaining that word, I think does help us indicate that intention for me. But obviously, yeah, the devil's in the details of what that actually looks like. And hopefully our Justice 40 friends will help make sure that happens.
Yeah. Representative Lambert's got this. But
Yeah, he definitely.
I'll keep my, I'll stay with the abstention.
Okay, no, that's great.
Okay.
All right, so we've got 4 new recommendations adopted. Well done. You guys are the best subcommittee. I don't have any reluctance in saying that. And that brings us to our overall, yeah, you can go to the next slide. Recommendations to be elevated to the full task force. Thank you for those who responded to the survey that was distributed on those. I do have sort of an update and a note on that based on the results. But Caitlin, did you want to talk through the results first, and then I can offer some clarification?
Sure. So I will share screen again. So the way I fashioned the survey, and I'm sorry if you guys hear sirens in the background. I'm really close to a fire department.
Not bad.
So I made a Google survey, asking each member to pick 2 recommendations that they would like to see elevated to the full task force in January, to pick another 2 to elevate at the March meeting, and then another 2 to elevate at the May meeting. And 5 people responded. And so this right here is just the list of all of the recommendations that we had at the time of the survey, and the number of votes that each recommendation got. And I highlighted, I color coded based on, when folks wanted to move them on. So, for example, the first recommendation related to right to counsel, 3 people voted to elevate it to the full body in January. And there was also 1 person who wanted to elevate it in the next full body meeting in March.
Okay.
Let me know if you want me to scroll or enlarge, or
maybe enlarge a little bit. It's a little small.
Okay.
For me, it is.
Is that better?
It's better for me. I also made our videos a little smaller on my screen. So, okay. Now, did you order these in turn? These aren't necessarily ordered in terms of how many votes they received, right?
No, they're not. This is just the order in which they were listed on the form. So the 2 recommendations that got the most votes for being elevated at the next meeting were this one right here, right to counsel, as well as the recommendation related to passing Senate Bill 90 to provide protection against discrimination for voucher holders.
Okay.
The next two most popular were the recommendation to establish an environmental justice board. 2 people wanted to see that at the January meeting, and then also to establish a comprehensive monitoring system for air and groundwater emissions.
And, I'll take this time to say that, so our full body task force meeting is on Monday. And I did have some discussions with our chairs and was made aware of, I think, a policy that we're going to be using moving forward, which is going to impact what we bring to that meeting for elevation, which is basically that our chairs would prefer that we don't bring forward recommendations on existing legislation. that we are free to endorse those as we have done in the subcommittee. I think we can share that information through other venues, but in terms of bringing forward a recommendation that we will walk through and vote on as a full task force, they ask that we bring forward things that are not sort of simply endorsing existing legislation. So I think in my conversation with Caitlin and Senator Pinckney about how we would proceed, I think our recommendation at this time would be that we take those second two recommendations on the Environmental Justice Board and the monitoring system and bring those up on Monday for full task force discussion and approval. And I don't know that we need to take an actual vote on that, but I would love to have some discussion or any thoughts that you all might have about us taking those two forward rather than taking forward the SB 90 and SB 101 as recommendations for a vote at this time.
I think that makes sense. And I have to confess that I failed to do the survey, but partially, and I opened it and I was like starting to try. And I think what I was struggling with was kind of identifying individual ones to take and was thinking about the more kind of the coordination between what gets taken at a time. So, does it make sense to take one housing and one environmental justice, or, two that kind of go together, in order to help kind of manage the discussion and kind of have everyone in the same frame of mind at the same time. So I do like the idea of taking two that kind of go together at the same time. I think on the other two, that totally understand that feedback as well. I think, is there interest in trying to kind of reframe those to get more at the concept behind them rather than like separate them a little bit from the specific legislation? So, like the source of income one, I think could be framed more broadly about, access to housing, for people with barriers, or I can't think of it off the top of my head, but to kind of zoom those out. Is there interest in that?
I mean, I would certainly be interested in that conversation. I'd love to hear from others on the committee about that. I think part of that feedback was also sort of maybe even looking for not necessarily just making it more generic, but kind of breaking new ground. So I guess let's assume that we can be successful with this bill that's currently out there that we've endorsed, and I hope that we'll be able to share our endorsement at that meeting. We'll see. But maybe we can think about how can we reframe that maybe takes it a step forward. So if that's something that, Marlena, you want to think about how you might reframe those as kind of like, then what's the next step past SB 90, or what's the next step past 101, if there is one. Maybe that's what we can look at, so that it's more of a groundbreaking recommendation rather than a rubber stamp on an existing policy opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, with that feedback, I don't know that I have kind of new ways for those things to be
right
in a groundbreaking way.
Right. But I'm hopeful that we can talk about these recommendations potential, or talk about these pieces of legislation that we're endorsing in that broader context, or make a Facebook post or something, and so that we can be sharing that priority. Because I think, we took the time to discuss that here. We created a recommendation. I think they're very important to be elevated in some way, even if it's not elevated in the sense of the full task force taking a vote as an original recommendation. So any other thoughts on that? Yes, Willie.
Yeah, just to make sure I'm okay, Marlena, are there things that are missing in the proposal legislation that don't quite, that were in your vision of what those two items should have captured? So is it, are there gaps in the proposed legislation?
Good question.
So the one on right to counsel is, DSHA isn't really involved in the particular push for that. I think those are both pretty specific, and I'm not sure. I can't think of how to kind of reframe them in a different way. That's a moving forward kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they remain adopted recommendations that we have, and I think that will be present in some form in our reporting. So that's good. But I mean, we don't have to make that decision at this moment. Maybe inspiration will strike and we'll be able to come up with a way to advance from here. But for the time being, I think taking those two environmental pieces will be very interesting and I hope impactful on Monday. Great. Anybody else? So that's our plan. I don't think we need to take a vote on it, right, Caitlin? I did have a question about the survey itself though. Is that still open if folks who have not yet voted on that want to weigh in on what we do in the next couple of months?
It is still open, but now that we have new recommendations, I might want to just do a whole new survey that captures all of the recommendations to date, and I might kind of also, do the questions a little bit differently instead of having people pick, these two for this meeting and these two for that meeting. Just think about like what's the most immediate. What do you want to see at the very next meeting? Yeah. And not worry about the order for subsequent meetings.
I agree. Just sort of so we can have an overall prioritized list that we can draw from accordingly. I think that's a great idea. And then also probably taking the ones off the table that we know that we can't bring to the full.
Right. Yeah, I'd be happy to put that together. I could get that out this week or next.
Excellent. Great. Willie?
Maybe I didn't read it completely, but would it make sense to combine number one, which I think was the EJ board, with discussion we had around the coordinator, or how will we reframe that? I can't remember, but I think the notion was that those two probably played together. But will we combine those two recommendations and take them forward, or still deal with them separately?
Any thoughts on that? Dr. Saunders, you're off mute, and I know you had some concerns about the second one, and Dana, I'd love to know what you think as well.
I just need to wrap up to think about this a little more. I think that Willie's suggestion about combining those two items makes sense. That's as far as my thinking is at this point.
Thank you. Representative Lambert?
I just had a question for clarity. So I thought the EJ board would potentially be an interagency board, whereas the liaison would be a DNREC position. Is that incorrect?
Caitlin, is that correct? Caitlin, did you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in here. So, Representative Lambert, to answer your question, that was also my understanding. But I'm thinking, I think we already voted on these separately. What if we bring the environmental justice recommendation and the EJ administrator to the full body on Monday as a package? There's still separate recommendations, and the full body task force would vote on each of them separately, but I feel like they are related enough that it would make a nice package. That's just a suggestion.
Can you bring those two? Can you bring the slide where the two recommendations are listed up so that I can?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe Caitlin, maybe we can quick copy paste the new one that we just approved so we can kind of see it on the same page.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so now we have the recommendation about the Environmental Justice Board, which has already been voted on previously, and the one we approved today about the Environmental Justice Administrator. So both have passed as standalone recs.
Right. And I do think, you know, sort of prioritizing the one that we just passed today also makes sense in light of the timeline that we're looking at with budget conversations coming up. So it might make more sense for that to come up, you know, this month rather than, I guess the next meeting is March, I think, or maybe of the full task force.
Yes, that's
so
the
that also makes a lot of sense as well, I think. So thoughts on us taking these two and holding the monitoring. I guess we'd have to see where it falls in our redoing of the survey, but you know, I think it theoretically, you know, would then be on the table for us to bring forward in March. I'm seeing some nodding heads. With no objections, I think we will revise our proposal to bring these two forward on Monday. You know, make a full presentation on these and hopefully receive support from the full task force.
Great. Okay.
And then Dr. Saunders, that gives us an opportunity, I think, even to explore some of your concerns on the second one.
Yes.
In that format. Forum. Great. Okay.
Great.
All right. A last chance for any further questions or comments. And I think we're good to go. All right. What's next? Do we have anything else? I guess probably just closing.
Public comment.
Oh, okay. I know we have a few people in the attendee space. Let me see. If any of you would like to make a public comment at this time, we just ask that you raise your hand. And if you prefer not to do that verbally, you can, of course, direct any other comments to African American Task Force at delaware.gov. So I do not see any hands. So I think we can go ahead and is there another slide?
No, I think that's the last one. Oh, closing comments.
So let me double check, or Caitlin, maybe you have it right in front of you, the timing of the meeting on Monday for anyone who wishes to attend.
Yes, it's 4 to 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Yep. Great.
And the link to register is on the Delaware General Assembly website, but if anybody has trouble finding it, you know, you could certainly just email me and I'll shoot you the link.
Yeah, maybe we can send that link out to everyone so that if you'd like to join us to either offer comment, support, or just see how that conversation goes on Monday, that would be great. And then is our next meeting scheduled for, I know we scheduled out pretty far.
Let me check the calendar.
So our next meeting
should be on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes, so I have us down for Wednesday, February 16th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Okay. I may have to hand the reins to Senator Pinckney for JFC since I'll be in JFC, but we can discuss that between now and then. So great. So we'll be in the full task force on Monday and we'll be back here again in February on the 16th. And just thank you, everybody. You're awesome. I think we're really doing great work in this subcommittee, and I'm hopeful that it will make a difference. So thanks for hanging with us. And I think that's it for today, unless Senator Pinckney has anything to add.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Caitlin, thank you for everything. You're a total rock star.
Thank you. And thank you to my co-pilot, Emmy, for our slide jockey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emmy.
Thank you. Thank you so
All right,
much. Everyone have a great day.
And have a great day, everybody. See you later.
Take care.